what is Haproxy, why we need Haproxy in our infrastructure, what are the benefits that we can get from today's what are the benefits that we can get from today's topic is Haproxy as a load balancer. So I'm going to explain you how what is Haproxy, why we need Haproxy in our infrastructure, what are the benefits that we can get from Haproxy while deploying or managing application or database or other applications. So I'm going to talk about all this, and after that I will give a demo onto AWS single instances, and as well as I will add Kubernetes microservices and also add Haproxy into microservices to show if we can how we can load balance in between pods. So let's start. So first, try to understand what is load balancing is. So load balancing is the process of distributing workloads across multiple servers. Let's say you have 10 servers, and on 10 servers you have installed you have a website, let's say example.com, and you have configured example.com on all 10 servers. So load balancing is the feature which will which will help you to load balance. Let's say you have a 10,000 traffic coming into, and the load balancing feature will distribute all those 10,000 queries or traffic in between 10 servers. So this is how it does. The main purpose of load balancing is to prevent any single server from getting overloaded and possibly breaking down. So let's say you have let's say there's a person who has 10 forms to fill up, and he has only 8 hours to do that task. But anyhow, he will get overloaded in that case, and it may possible that he will not able to complete those 100 forms in a day. So what you will do, you will add 2 more people, 5 more people, 10 more people, so that the form can be where we were expecting that task to be done into 8 hours, that task can be done in an hour or a minute. So that's the same thing we can see into the load balancing thing. In other words, load balancing improves service availability and helps prevent downtimes. So basically, your service will be 24/7 up, and it will also it will not let you think that your service can be down anytime. So it will help you to keep up your services up every time. So that's the load balance. Let's try to understand through the diagram. Let's suppose in our era, in today's era, there is a broadcasting thing is happening. Gaming people are enjoying, and big data, artificial intelligence, they are doing that. And for everything, every company have made their applications. So for live broadcasting, they have made application, and gaming and big data and all. So this all, let's say, assume anything, like you can assume a live broadcasting, you can assume these servers are hosted for gaming software or big data. So there is a load balancer which is staying in between internet and the infrastructure. So whenever the request comes through the internet, and it will go to the load balancer, and load balancer will be responsible for load balancing in between all these servers. So let's say 10,000, as I said. So 10,000 will be distributed in these 4 servers. So you can increase or decrease numbers by easily without having any technical challenges, or without any downtime or any migration kind of thing. You don't have to do that as we were doing previously. So these features these things can be managed by load balancer. For example, you can also take an example like a Flipkart and Amazon. They have sometimes they put some sale or discounts. So when they put some discounts onto onto their applications or on some products, so the bunch of people comes onto the website. Let's say on the usual day they serve around 1 million or 10 million requests a day or a minute. But when they put some discounts, the traffic unexpectedly get increased from 10 millions to 50 millions or 70 millions. So in that case, what happens, like in that case, the service will be impacted, and it will stuck, and it will not work. So we will not have the Flipkart service or Amazon service in that case. So that's where the load balancer comes into the pictures, and they can also what it does basically. So in the backend, by any technology, by auto scaling or something, you can increase the number of servers. Let's say it's 4 now. So you can increase 100, and you don't have to worry about the load balancing because the load balancer is working in front of the internet. So whatever the traffic, what you need to do is basically you need to add the server, whether it is manually or whether it is automatically. So the load will be balanced automatically. Now, so any question from the load balancing concept? Okay, I take it as a no. So now let's see load balancer types. So load balancer, there are two types of load balancer: hardware load balancer and the software load balancer. So I'm going to, let me talk something about hardware load balancer. So where the name come hardware, you need to put some hardware like you can take an example of switches, routers, or the firewall. So these all hardware things come into the infrastructures at the big level. So the hardware we uses for the networking distribution or for the application distributions. So most of the time in the banking sector, people, the engineers also uses the hardware load balancer because they don't want any discrepancy. So at the higher level, so they go for the hardware load balancer. But in most of the cases, we use a software load balancer. So I will, in this PPT, I will talk about the software load balancer, not the hardware load balancer. Okay, Haproxy is one of the example of load balancer. There are others into the market is Nginx and Apache. So these are all load balancer are available in the market. Today in this PPT, I'm going to talk about Haproxy as a software load balancer. So why I'm talking Haproxy? Because it's a free, and of course it's open source, and that provides high availability load balancer and proxy server for TCP and HTTP based applications. So it covers everything. So it covers TCP protocols, and it covers HTTP and HTTPS protocol. So each and every applications into the whatever applications we have currently in IT era. So everything will be covered in TCP and HTTP on based. Now it aims to optimize resource uses. So it basically let you optimize the resource. Let's say in one server you have a 10 GB of RAM and 5 core of CPU, and there is other server which has 6 GB of RAM and 10 GB of 2 core CPU. So that's your resources, right? So it basically help you to manage the resource because it will send more traffic to the higher storage, higher resources which servers have, and it will send less traffic to the lower resource servers. It will maximize the throughput, minimize the response time, and they avoid overloading any single resource. So basically, any resource, it will completely manage. Overall things is saying about that. You don't have to worry about the resources. The resource uses will be very efficient. Now let's try to understand how Haproxy works. So basically, you have seen here that how load balancer works. So similar kind of tools I'm going to explain as a diagram for Haproxy. So let's say there is a client, and and he's trying to. This is the client computer. He's trying to access www.mywebsite.com. So whenever he type on the browser www.mywebsite.com, it will go to the recipient, which is wherever it is. Let's say DNS will help him to find the this name and the server. So let's say this computer has find this server. So this server is basically Haproxy, which is sitting in front, and it is also called as a front end. So let's say he's trying to access mywebsite.com. Mywebsite.com is somewhere else on some other servers, but whenever he will hit, the DNS is knowing about this server, so he will directly redirect this request to the Haproxy, which is staying as a front end. So request goes to the Haproxy front end. Now Haproxy is responsible for sending mywebsite.com request to the mentioned server. So we have to tell this server that on which server this website will be hosting. So this will redirect. Haproxy has a responsibility to redirect mywebsite.com to that server. So let's say I have this server. This is called Web1. Website is Web1 is having onto it. So this is one of the backend, which is hosting mywebsite.com. Okay, so by after some time, I have added one more server, which is called Web2, and this is also as a backend for the same website. And I have also added third server, Web3. So according to the requirement, we can add more servers. If the traffic is increasing, so we can add more servers into it so that the load can be balanced. So what I'm trying to say is basically the front end is this server, and the real application is hosting on these servers. HAProxy, we need to tell HAProxy that these are the backend server. Whenever the request come to for website, mywebsite.com, please let it direct to these servers. So this server will be redirected. So any question from this diagram? Okay, so I'll take it as a no. And in a simple way, we can say client requests come to the HAProxy front end, it goes to the back end. HAProxy backend, it will by backend because HAProxy will have multiple backends. Let's say I have 10 applications, so I have configured 10 backends. So I'll tell you, I will show you into the example further. So let's say I have a 10 applications, so I have created 10 backends. So according to the request, it will go to the backend, and it will see that if the request which has come is persisting or not. If it is not, then the default page will be displayed onto the website. Let's say the website has moved, or this website is not available, or something, some kind of default page will be displayed to the people. And if it is there, if the backend is there or the server is there, so people can see that website onto the browser. Now we will see how we can install and set up the HAProxy. So for now, I'm going to follow this diagram. So I will create one HAProxy server, and for the minimum use resources, only for the practice, I will create two these Web1 and Web2 servers. So for that demo, I'm using um, AWS, and let's say I'm going to the EC2, and in the EC2, so I have already created before this PPT. I have created these three servers. So this is fresh server. Nothing is installed on HAProxy. So I'm powering off these machines. The state is running, and the status check should be 2 by 2. So we are waiting for that. Then only we can connect. Meanwhile, I'm copying the IP address to connect with the server. Okay, so it's taking some time. Okay, so I'm inside Haproxy server. So I will be root for now. So I am going to install and set up Haproxy. So this is my server first. So what I need to do is basically, so if you are on Linux server, then by default, if you have a EPL repository and all, so by default you can download the Haproxy uh, software, and just click on install. If you're not able to install Haproxy, then simply you can go and browse the on Google. So it will tell if any repository is missing onto the server. So it will let you add, and then you can install the Haproxy onto it. So right now, Haproxy has 1.5.18 versions installed in this machine, but the latest version is something 1.8 something is there. The default repository is basically is pulling this version, so we are okay with that for now. But if you are going to implement it in your infrastructure, just make sure that you are going for the latest version. Okay, so we need to go to the path where the Haproxy configuration will be. So there is only one file, haproxy.conf. So what you need to do is basically you need to do anything that you want to perform on Haproxy. You have this only file. So that's very easy to tackle. Okay, so the one part is done. Now the next thing is that I need to set up Web 1 and Web 2. So as I told you that the Web 1 and Web 2 is already there. So let's see. So this is Web 1, and try to open, if we can open the website. Okay, so let me check once the port is open or not. Okay, the port is open. Okay, so I need to check the website is running on this server or not. So for that, I need to log in into it. So let me log in. Am I audible to everyone right now?
Yeah, Pawan.
Okay. Systemctl status http. So it's not running. So let me start. So I have for hosting a website, I am using HTTPD, and onto the HTTPD, I have put some. So let me check the status. So if you want to practice, you can simply install the HTTPD for backend as a website. So it's running now. So let's see if I can open that website on browser. So let's see what is in. So the content would be www.html. It's a default path. Okay, so this has to be open. Okay, so you can see that Web 1 is configured with the content of Hello World and Web 1. And let's see what about Web 2. So the same thing has to do on to the Web 2 as well. Now try to open. Sorry. So it's being accessible, but here it's taking some time. Okay, so it will be accessible in the meantime, but I can curl from here. So it's okay for us. Now, the next step is basically, so what we have done so far, we have created Haproxy server, we have created web 1 and configured the website onto it. We have set up the web 2 and configured the website onto it, and both are accessible. Now, we need to tell Haproxy that the mywebsite.com is hosting onto the web 1 and web 2. So let's do that. So I'm onto Haproxy server. So need to open Haproxy configuration file. So you can see it's a bunch of examples out here. So we don't have to worry about these all details. So let me explain you that how it can be categorized. So when you log in into Haproxy configuration file, you don't have to see all this. There are three sections you can think of. So one section is global. The second section is defaults, which is unchangeable. The global will be changed once, and whatever changes you will put into it, you don't have to change anything onto it, into the global section. The same thing you don't have to do with the default sections. Now, what you need to do is basically you have only have to work with the front end and the back end. But for now, default section I'm not touching, global section I'm not touching anything into it. But I'll explain you the important part which is there into the global. And if you need to change, you can do that. So let's say if you want, Haproxy by default does not store the logs. So you need to use these things to be enabled. And you also you need to use syslog or rsyslog software, which is default in any Linux server. So you have to use that, and you need to entry this local to into that rsyslog. So rsyslog will start sending logs to the whatever path you will mention. Let's say I have mentioned this path. So you need to enable this. So whatever the logs will be there for the Haproxy, it will be stored into it. So by default, there is no logs. You need to enable it. And the second thing is the user and the group permissions on this file. So you can put the default is Haproxy. And the third one is the socket. So basically, this socket is very important. So when you are working and whatever the traffic is coming onto Haproxy, you need to see you have this line to be turned on so that you can use this path and you can put onto the browser. So whatever thing is happening, which backend is up, which front end is up, what is down, what is up. So everything you can see how many requests are there, how many traffic has been uh, handled by the Haproxy. So every count will be there. The report will be there. You can see reports. So you can download the reports and you can manage the reports from there. So this is the important part. And for now, it's passwordless. So you can also add the password. So if anyone try to access this path, that person has to put the username and password, which you will add into at here. So it will be password. Sorry. Now the default. So we don't do any changes into the defaults except max connection. So let's say it can take per second. It can take 3,000 connections at a time. So if you are or your front end, if your front end and back end is capable of handling 3,000, so you can add 3,000 or you can put it less. And if your front end back end, sorry, if you have a request more than 3,000, like 1 million, so you need to put 1 million at here so that it can take the request 1 million at a time. So this thing has to, this is very important. So that's the important thing from the global and defaults. Okay, so let's move to the main part. Okay, so front end. I have told you what is front end is. So front end will be by itself Haproxy, and the backend will be the servers which is staying behind and having the website content. So I am going to delete all this for now. And this is as well. Okay, so it's a backend at here. App. So this is pretty simple at here. So let's say if the request come, for now I will make a simple thing for it. So let's say it's 18. So whatever the request will come onto the HA proxy, it will listen onto 80 only. But let's say some people has written like 443. So 443 entry is not here. So you need to add 443 entry as a front end. If you want to handle the request on 5000 port, so you need to add front end of 5000. So this is not limited to one. This is not limited to one front end. You can add how many front end you want to add. You can do that. Okay, so you don't have to limit it for this. Let's say I have added 480. I can add front end for 443. I can add port front end with the 5000. So how many front end do you want to add? You can do that. And I will tell the front end that the default backend will be app, or there is other option is there. So let's say there is so it's a default page. So we don't add any application onto it because it's a default. So anything happen or any application is down, so default page will be displayed. So we don't want this default page to be displayed. So what you can do, you can use default or use backend. So instead of default backend, you can use, so default backend will be only one. So in complete configuration file, there will be only default backend. But what if you want to add multiple backend? So you can use backend instead of default backends. So for now, I'm putting default backend for now. So when the request will come on 80 port, let's say this website is running on 80. And whenever somebody will hit and it will come to the HA proxy, it will land on this front end. So front end will say that, okay, so this request is for me. Now it will go inside of front end in itself, and it will see, is there any backend for this 80 or not? So let's say there is a backend mentioned at your app. So it will, okay, so it will say, okay, app is there. So it will send the request to the backend. So let's say you have a 10 backends at here. So if it will send the request to that backend, which is matching with the app name. So I have, so this is the backend app name at here. Now you need to add the server at here. I think that I'm not making bore to all of you.
No, no.
Okay.
Not at all, Pawan.
So web 1 and let's say this is my web 2, and I'll add the IP address at here of web 1 and web 2. So for now, I'm using a private IP instead of using public IP address. So let's say this is web 1 public IP address. Private IP address is this. So copy. And the web application is running on 80. So I will add the 80 at here. But if it is running on some other different port, you can add that port. But for now, it's 80. So I'll add 80. Now I will go to the web 2 and copy and paste. Okay, so right now I have a backend app, and backend app is having 2 servers. So in future, if you add, let's say if you add web 3, so you need to add web 3 below of this inside this backend. So that's it for now. Okay, so one thing is that balance. Let's talk about balance. So balance is very, very important at here. So it basically decides how traffic will travel inside these 2 servers. So by default is round robin. Round robin is basically, it's all about like the traffic will be go one by one. So let's say So let's say there are three requests come together. So HAProxy will send one request to this, one request to this, and one request to this. Let's say you have only two servers and you have three requests. So one request will be to go to this, and the second request will go to this, and the third request will go to this one. So this is round robin, and the fourth one, when the fourth query will come, it will go to the web 2. So it will distribute everything. Traffic is there. Will come whatever the traffic will come onto the HAProxy. It will send the equal traffic to web 1 and web 2. Okay, let's say it was four traffic arrived to HAProxy, and at the same time web 2 was down. So web 2 get down. So in that case, what it will do, it will send all four traffic to the web 1. Okay, and okay, so let's say after sending four traffic, this web 2 came up. So it's power on now. So what it does basically, when the next when the let's say one more request came, so it will send to the web 2. It will not send to the web 1. Again, the next traffic will come, it will send to the web 2 until it will also check that web 1 is done with the four query. If it is done with the four query, then it will distribute equally. If it is four, if web 1 is holding four, and the next it will wait for next four query to send to the web 2. And once it is equal now, then it will start sending one to the each other. So this is how the traffic will be done into the round robin process. So the balance is round robin, and there are other balance are there, weighted balance. So weighted balance is basically these two important. That's why I'm describing it here. There are more balances are available. So you can go onto the HAProxy with documentation website and you can check how many balances are there. So weighted load balancer is basically balance is basically, let's say web 1 is having more resources. Let's say it has 50 GB RAM and 10 CPU, and this is having only 5 GB RAM and 2 core. So why I have added these two discrepancy or different hardware? Because I want high availability. I am knowing that I know that web 1 I don't have much traffic on my website, and I need high availability. At least I need two servers. So, but I don't have much money to invest onto it. So I will add less resource, less hardware resource, because it will affect my costing. So every request will, let's say I'll tell HAProxy send 80% traffic to web 1 and send only 20% traffic to. So if 100 requests come, it will send 80 and 20. So this way we can balance, we can use weighted balance. So how many weight are there onto the weight, the traffic will be traveled into the backend. So any question from the balance thing?
Yeah, so actually one question I have.
Mm-hmm.
Actually one question I have. So suppose the same time my both server has been down. So
Mm-hmm.
what will happen?
Okay, so in that case, it will display the default page. So I told you that using the default backend. So at here, I will use the default. I will add the default page onto the HAProxy or somewhere else. Let's say I have put the default page onto S3. If you are using AWS, you can put the default page on S3. So S3 page will be saying that the website is down. So whenever whatever the request will come, let's say 100 requests came, so 100 browser will display with the same messages that the website is down in that case.
So inside the HAProxy, we also using any circuit breaker thing, because the if suppose the one server is the my down and then after 10 minutes is up. So how
Mhm.
the HAProxy knows? We are using any circuit breaker
Health check.
thing or something help?
No, no. So you can see that check is mentioned at here. So this does the health check. Let me show you how it does. So you can see this diagram. So there is a health check is there. The same kind of health check is happening onto this. I will explain this diagram to you, so you will have better understanding about it. Okay.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay. So what it does. So I got disconnected from the server. Let me reconnect. Maybe my file is not saved. Sorry. So I need to re-add. Okay, so I'm done with the balance at here. So round robin and weighted are mostly used balance. I explained. If you want to know more about the balance, so this is all about balance. So you can go and check. So I'm saving this setup. Okay, so let me restart this service of Haproxy.
Hey Pawan, one question here. Do we have an option to reload the configuration without restarting
Yeah,
the
that's
server?
right. That's right. I was about to tell that. So let's say this server is running fine for now and everything is done. So you did one change only. So you will not restart Haproxy because every traffic will get uh, it will disconnect from the so whatever traffics are there running. So it will disconnect everything. So you don't have to restart when it is in production and it is running state. You don't need to restart this or start or stop things. You can simply reload this thing. Reload. So whatever change you done, you can simply reload it, or instead of before reloading, you can also use the Haproxy uh, Haproxy test. Sorry, check file Haproxy. So you, if there is anything wrong you have done into the Haproxy configuration file, it will tell you before restarting of it. So before restarting of it, make sure you don't do start and stop into the production. You can simply reload it, or it is also better before reloading, you can do this command, Haproxy check file, this file, and if it is valid, then only you can restart, oh, sorry, reload. Don't do restart or restart, start and stop into the production. Otherwise, whatever the connection is, let's say you have let's say this Haproxy is serving let's say 1 million traffic is serving, so it will all disconnected from there. So don't do the restart. So this is done. Haproxy configuration is done. Now simply do the curl localhost. So my website, so there is one more thing to understand. So whenever you will create a record, let's say www.mywebsite.com onto the DNS, you will put the IP address of Haproxy. You will not put the IP address of Web1 and Web2. Okay, so whenever you create a record, you just simply use www.mywebsite.com. So for now, Haproxy, I don't have DNS set here, so I'll simply use a local host, and I did the curl. That's the wrong. Hmm. Okay, so it's not restarted yet.
That port 80 traffic, is it enabled in inbound one? Pawan?
Which one?
That 80 port and inbound rules.
Okay, sorry. So I did a mistake. So in the previous connection configuration, what I did, I changed 5,000 to 80, but here I did not in the
Yeah.
second attempt. So that's the error. So although it's if we put the 5,000 at there, it can also be accessible. So let me see with the 5,000 first. Okay, so the website is being accessible. Okay, so the first website is having hello world and second hello world and web 1, and the second website is having web 2. So the one request came to the web 1 and second request went to the web 2. So let me change 5,000 to 80 because I have opened only 80 port in the security group of EC2 instance. That's why. Okay, you can see that reload has done my changes. Change has also modified into the Haproxy without restarting. So reload done the changes. So what is the difference in between restart, start and stop, and reload? So there is a very small difference. Reload will not stop any previous connection which is connected with the Haproxy. It will reload only those changes which has recently added. So that's the difference in restart and reload. So now 80 is also can work now. Okay, let's see on the browser, same thing. So I will use the public IP address of Haproxy. Okay, so 80 port is open. There is something wrong with the public IP
Pawan,
address, I think.
just check whether it's not redirecting to 4431. Just open that URL and check there with :80.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
see,
it's
it's,
yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
HTTPS.
just give HTTP. Yeah, now it will work.
Okay, so now the web 2, and then I refresh web 1, web 2, web 1. So this is how the balance round robin will work. So we have seen that. Now, if you want to add web 3, so the same thing you have to do. You have to build the web 3, and then you need to go into the web Haproxy configuration, and you need to add inside the backend. Inside the backend, you need to add web 3. So this is how you can scale. Otherwise, there is also we can use the auto, if we are using auto scaling in EC2, or is there any mechanism we are using for auto adding the servers. So we don't have to come to this HAProxy and do it manually. We can write some kind of a script or automation kind of thing. So it will add the backend server as well. So we don't have to worry about this uh, for now. But if you are in the bigger infrastructures where the application is running as an independent, or there is no microservices or containerization things are there into the infrastructure in any other company, so they basically come to this path manually and do that. So you can do manually as well, and you can also add the script so that it can add backend. So so the two main things we have understood: front end and backend. Now a very important thing is there that we need to understand is the ACL part. In HAProxy, everything is pretty simple. Everything is simple. Global, defaults, front end, and back end is very simple. Now, the most important thing to understand is the ACL, because HAProxy has a very complicated rules. You can add it at here. You can add the path. Let's say in the company, you might have used that I need to search my website with the blog or with the video or with the career or anything management. So any page is there. So if you want to search, so take an example. Let's say you have a server, and on a single server you have added 3 websites. So for now it's one website, and after sometimes you added a website for video, you added a website for images, you added a website for other things, and you don't have multiple servers, so that you have configured 3 websites on a single server. So HAProxy, how you will tell HAProxy? If you will tell HAProxy that web1 my server and 80 port is there, so it will by default go to the website 1, and it will not go to the slash blog slash video slash all. So what? So if you want to redirect your website from the default to the expected one, you at this time you will use ACL. So ACL will help you to redirect your default to the expected website. Or ACL is not only doing the redirecting path, but it also does the regex, regular expression you can also use with the ACL. So a lot of things you can do with the ACL. You can customize your performance. You can customize the error messages, whatever thing you want to do broadly, and if you want to utilize maximum part of the HAProxy, you will have to understand the ACLs. So there is a small part which I will explain you, which will let you understand that what ACL does. Okay, so the first thing is that ACL only can be added with the front end. You cannot add ACL. You cannot write ACL rule with the backend. It will, you have to add with the front end. You don't. If you add ACL into it, it will not work. So you have to add ACL rule. Whatever rule you want to add, you can add it at here. So let's say I have a ACL rule I want to add. So ACL, so this is what ACL URL blog. So you can type any name at here. Let's say I said that demo video. Okay. Now the path. So let's say somebody has, so this is hard coded name, path, beg. So when you will go to the HAProxy documentation page and you will type ACL, it will tell you every hard coded name which is there. So this is the name that you can put anything, but path beg is basically you have to see onto the HAProxy documentation page. Now it is saying /blog. So whatever, let's say I want to see the video. So this is my, so onto the website, I will type at here is video. So this is ACL rule is added. Now I need to use backend. So I will add backend. So there is a name which I will add. Let's say I added video backend, and I'll tell if demo video comes with the with the demo video. So this, so whenever somebody will type slash video, it will come to the front end 80, and it will go to the, so if you have type 80, then it will come to the 80 front end, and it will search any ACL rule. It will search, so it will match slash video. So when it will match the slash video, it will search the respected backend for this video. So it will use backend video backend if demo video. So if this slash video is true, then this backend will be used. So what I need to do is basically I need to add one more backend for this video backend. Same thing I'll do. Balance round robin server video 1, and I'll use the same server. So let's say I'm using web 1 for adding slash video. So let's go. Okay, so right now I am, so let me check once more time. The web 1 public IP is 33. Okay, so I'm on to the web 1 server. So for adding a video website, I'm using this web 1 server. So I'll go to the path where www.html, and I'll create a path video. Okay, whatever name you, if you want to put, you can put the website name, blog, or anything. I have added a video there, so I will create a video. So inside a video, I will create an index file, and I'll add video website. Systemctl reload httpd. So first go on website web 1. Okay, so this is my website 1 default website. When I will type video, it had displayed the video website content. Okay, so same thing has to happen with the Haproxy. So when I'll type video at here, it should print. So there is no URL at here. That's why it's showing nothing. But web 1 is having that website. So I have to add this entry into the Haproxy. So onto the Haproxy. So this is staying on Haproxy. This I'll put everything same. Okay. So this is it for now, and I'll save, and I'll reload the Haproxy, and then I'll see if it is working or not. So you can see that it is redirecting to the video website. So this is how it will happen. Now, I will not tell any users if this website is globally going to be accessible. I'm not going to tell anybody that I am my website is having slash video name. So I have to make it default. So the same thing can be done with the ACL. So in the ACL, I will add the hard-coded host name at here. So let's say I need to add that thing I cannot be show at here because I don't have DNS right now. So in the ACL rule, I will add the ACL and the domain. I can tell domain video domain, so v1. The ACL name will be v1, and then I will tell this one SDR host www.myvideo.com. Okay, and then I'll use the use backend for it, or I'll use the same path for it. Okay, so I'll say ACL demo is this, then I'll type at here if this and or we can type, or sorry, we can use pipe, or we can use this pipe, and we can type the same, the v1. So this way it will start sending. If somebody will type www.myvideo.com, it will come to the web front end, because the IP will be the same for Haproxy, right? So it will so DNS record will be created with the same IP and with this DNS name. So when somebody will type this DNS name, it will come to the same Haproxy server, and on behalf of ACL rule, it will redirect to the this backend, which I have added. So it will solve your purpose of the most two basic purpose is basically you don't have to create many servers for hosting a website. Let's say you have a 10 website and you have a 2 servers only. So you can host your 10 websites onto that if you have a good resource onto it. You don't have 10 servers, you don't require 10 more servers. So you can, and each website can have a different DNS name. So one will be my video, one will be my blog, one will be my website, one will be my images. So you can say with the same Haproxy server, you can have different DNS, multiple different DNS name, and serving to the different websites. So that's the benefit that you get with the Haproxy. Any question from the ACL? And it's not a list. There are a lot of uh, uh, rules are there for SCL. So you have to go and search onto the Haproxy documentation page. Then you will get a learn. Yeah, somebody was asking some question.
Yes, my one question is the Pawan. So actually, suppose the you are showing the in HS server, I have only one site, my application site, and suppose the I have the 10 site, my website one, my website two, and they have the different ports. Suppose you are here fixing the front end is the 80 port. Suppose those site on the in my HS server, so might be they are the in different port. Might are surely they will be on different port 80, 82, 84. So in this scenario, so what will happen?
So you don't have to do anything. So front will be the same 80, and the backend will be, let's say you have a 80 84. So you can add 80 84 at here.
No, this 8080, I think this is the EC2 server part. Suppose the my Haproxy server, in my Haproxy server, I have written 3 sites. One is the my
Okay.
website one, my website two, and my website three. So my website is the hosted in HS servers in Haproxy in 80 port, and my website two is will be hosted on a different port like 83, 84, 85, 87. So and on that.
So see, that's not the usual case, because you will not tell your user that to have a 8080 port or 8081 port. So every request will. So you can also do that. What you can do, let me show you. So let's say if you want to do that, you can create one more front end. Okay. So
Okay,
it
so we
will.
can create the multiple front end and
Yeah, that's.
okay.
So you can say use backend.
Okay. So these are the mapping files like mapper they
Yeah.
are
So I
basically
said I
named by
said
some things.
I said this is my 8080 web. So you have to create a backend. So at here, backend will be created as a backend 8080 web, and
Yes,
the server
right.
will be yeah. Correct?
Yes, right. And one more question. Suppose the my HA proxy server has the maximum limit is the 1 million record per second. Okay.
Okay.
And suddenly the request is coming to 2 million. So in this case, what happen?
So first it will take the 1 million request, who first come first serve, and it will not reject 100 millions. It will wait for 100 millions, and then it will process the another one. So there is a bunch. There is a request like it's a parallel getting inside of it. So max connection per second it can take 3,000, let's say, or 1 million. So it will wait for. So once the 1 million will be processed, then another 1 million will be processed.
Suppose any bad user is hitting means suppose in 1 second we
DDoS
have
attack, you're saying?
yes 1 million and then every second is a 10 million 10 million 10 million. So a time there should be a limit will be crossed, my server will have. So there is the any security check is also available here.
Yeah. Security check can be added at here. I will tell you about that. So
Okay.
I'll show you. But the security thing can be added. DDoS can be also manage, but not the higher level, but at the lower level you have to do that. The DDoS attack can be managed on the top upper level of layer of the infrastructures. Okay, so you can also manage the DDoS attack from here, but if you want to go for depth management, if you're using AWS, then definitely you can go for AWS Shield. So Shield will be do that this DDoS attack prevention, and then the request will be served as usual.
Okay. So there is the any also testing tool for this HA proxy. Suppose I have to check my load.
Performance test, yeah, you can do
Yes.
that. Performance testing are there.
So any tool you can refer means suppose I want to check the how
No,
much load will
any tool like it depends. It's a normal website, right? So any QA is using any is like kind of Selenium or some other tools. So you can use that and you can test the performance.
no, I just want to check the load means I just want to put the
Yeah, you can.
one.
This also
JMeter. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, you
benchmark.
can go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so thanks, Mink. Okay, so this is all about the. So there are three things we have to focus: front end, ACL, backend, and all. So this is all about independent servers. Okay, so what should I do? Should I stop at here? Example.